Have you ever found yourself just completely trapped in a dynamic where you were constantly second-guessing your own reality?
Oh, absolutely. Like, you know that exact feeling.
Right. Your stomach just drops the second a certain person's name pops up on your phone screen.
Yeah, or you feel this heavy, suffocating anxiety whenever they just walk into a room.
Exactly. Or maybe you've been on the other side of it, watching someone else get systematically targeted in a meeting or like a family group chat.
And everyone just stands by.
Yeah. Everyone, including you, just stands by in uncomfortable silence.
We almost always write that off as just, well, human nature.
We do. We call it office politics or family drama or just a clash of difficult personalities.
Right? We normalize it. We treat these toxic interactions like bad weather, like something you just have to endure.
Just put your head down and get through it.
Exactly. We tell targets of this behavior that they just need a thicker skin or that they need to learn how to play the game.
But, and this is what we're getting into today, Jason and Jennifer Langley treat it entirely differently.
They really do.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking. So the Langleys are the founders of a platform called FG Own Your Power.
Which is a fantastic resource.
It is. Jason is a registered nurse. He has a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and Jennifer holds a Master's in Human Resources. And they don't look at bullying, gaslighting, and manipulation as these vague, abstract social issues.
No, they look at it as his system.
Yes, a predictable, hackable system. And the beautiful thing about a system is that if you can understand the mechanics of it,
You can dismantle it.
you can dismantle it completely.
And that is the core mission of their platform and, honestly, of our deep dive today.
For sure.
We are looking at this highly comprehensive, incredibly forensic stack of materials that the Langleys have compiled.
It's a massive stack.
It is.
Yeah.
And what makes their approach so effective is that it bridges multiple disciplines. Like, they pull from cognitive psychology, behavioral economics, developmental neuroscience,
Even artificial intelligence.
right, even AI.
Hmm.
They weave it all together into this unified theory of how manipulation works and exactly how to stop it.
Looking through this stack, what immediately caught my attention is just how practical it is. Like, it's not just a theoretical discussion.
Not at all.
The goal of this deep dive is to give you, the listener, whether you are dealing with a toxic boss, a manipulative family member, or you're just watching a friend get targeted, we want to give you a massive shortcut.
A shortcut to becoming completely empowered.
Yes. Heavily boundary trained. And to do that, we have to start by zooming out and looking at the sheer scale of the mechanics we are dealing with. Because this isn't just an interpersonal issue.
It's a macroeconomic crisis.
It really is.
The scale is truly staggering. So, the Langley's materials draw on data from the Global Bullying Intelligence Center,
Okay.
which operates as one of the world's most comprehensive research hubs on this specific topic. And the economic cost they detail, it immediately reframes the conversation. Bullying costs the United States an estimated $14.3 billion every single year.
Wait, 14.3 billion.
Billion. With a B. Every single year.
Let's actually break down that 14.3 billion because it's hard to visualize a number that large.
It is.
So the data points out that workplace bullying alone accounts for $8.8 billion in lost productivity and turnover.
$8.8 billion just in the workplace.
Think about what that actually looks like on like a random Tuesday morning.
Right.
It's the graphic designer who spends 3 hours staring at a blinking cursor
Yeah.
because her heart is just pounding after a passive-aggressive email from the creative director.
Exactly. Or it's the middle manager who takes 2 sick days because the thought of sitting in another review meeting makes them physically nauseous.
Yeah, and it is the human resources department spending tens of thousands of dollars to recruit a new senior analyst, completely unaware that the last 3 analysts quit because of the exact same toxic team leader.
That $8.8 billion represents the sheer loss of focus when employees are operating in a state of hypervigilance. You have to remember the biology of what is happening here. You literally cannot do deep, complex, creative work while your amygdala is screaming at you that a predator is in the room.
Wow.
The brain just shuts down executive functioning.
Yeah.
It diverts all energy to survival mode.
It is an economic black hole, and that is just the workplace.
Yeah.
The data from the Global Bullying Intelligence Center also tracks schools. It shows $3.5 billion spent on interventions, counseling, and security measures.
And the healthcare system.
Right. The healthcare system is absorbing $2 billion in mental health treatments, specifically for bullying-related anxiety, depression, and PTSD.
And we really have to look very closely at who is absorbing the brunt of that trauma.
That's a huge point.
Because bullies are not equal opportunity offenders.
No, they're not.
They are highly opportunistic predators who target specific vulnerabilities. The sources cite demographic data from the National Center for Education Statistics, or NCES. The 2022 data reveals that Native American students face the highest bullying rates at 31%.
31%, that's almost a third.
Exactly. Furthermore, students with disabilities face bullying at a rate of 33%, compared to 19% for peers without disabilities.
And the stack also includes 2022 data from GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network.
Right.
They track the experiences of LGBTQ plus youth, and those numbers are even higher. Like 52% of LGBTQ plus students and a staggering 59% of transgender students report experiencing bullying.
It paints a very clear empirical picture.
It does. Manipulation and bullying thrive where there is already systemic marginalization.
Exactly. The bully leverages the existing prejudices of society to isolate their target even further.
And the long-term impact on those targeted individuals is just devastating. Like the text outlines the lifetime cost per bullied child.
Oh, this part was wild.
Right. They estimate it ranges from $85,000 to $140,000.
Per child.
Per child. And this isn't just, an arbitrary number they pulled out of thin air. It accounts for reduced educational attainment because the child couldn't focus or dropped out.
Lower lifetime earnings as a result of that.
Yes, and significantly increased healthcare utilization over the course of their entire lives due to chronic stress.
We are essentially looking at a compounding generational tax levied on the most vulnerable people in society.
I want to look at a piece of data in this stack that is incredibly sobering.
Yeah, go ahead.
The sources reference research from the U.S. Secret Service and the FBI, specifically the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit.
This is the pipeline data.
Right. They track what is known as the bullying to violence pipeline. The Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center found that 71% of school attackers were chronically bullied.
71%.
Furthermore, 87% felt persecuted or bullied by others, and bullying was identified as the most common factor in school shootings.
And the FBI corroborates this.
They do. They found that 78% of attackers had a documented history of being bullied.
It completely elevates the urgency of the conversation. We are talking about literal life and death stakes stemming from chronic victimization. The material cites SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which notes that prevention through early intervention can reduce these violent incidents by up to 50%.
I have to pause here, though.
Okay, right.
Because I'm looking at the Secret Service data, and my immediate reaction is actually a little defensive on behalf of the targets.
How so?
Like, are they saying that every bullied kid is a ticking time bomb? Because that feels perilously close to victim blaming.
I see.
It feels like we're saying the kids who are already suffering the most are the ones society needs to be afraid of. It's like looking at a pressure cooker. Yes, the heat is turned up, but not every single pressure cooker explodes. Most people just internalize the trauma.
Right, they turn it inward.
Exactly. So why are we focusing on the explosion instead of asking why the community is ignoring the heat being turned up in the first place?
That is a phenomenal distinction.
Well,
and it is vital to how the Langleys structure their platform. They are incredibly careful not to victim blame.
good.
The research is not saying every bullied individual will become violent, not even close. What the synthesis of this data does is explain the underlying mechanism of why the pipeline exists at all.
Okay, break that down for me.
The research identifies a very specific four-stage escalation pathway. It starts with chronic victimization.
Stage 1.
Right. Then it moves to social isolation. Then a crisis point. And finally, violent ideation.
Wait, so the critical failure point isn't the target's psychology, it's the second stage, social isolation.
Precisely. When a person is chronically victimized and the community, the school administrators, the workplace HR, the peers in the lunchroom, when they utterly abandon them, that isolation breeds a profound existential despair.
So the pipeline exists because the ecosystem allows the abuse to continue unchecked until a crisis point is reached.
Exactly. The danger isn't the victim. The danger is the systemic social isolation we force upon them.
Wow, that reframes the entire problem.
It really does.
Because if the community stepping in stops the pipeline, it demands we ask the hardest question in this whole deep dive.
Which is?
If this is a $14.3 billion problem, if it causes lifelong trauma, and if it literally drives people to life and death crisis points, why do communities let it happen?
Right.
Why do we watch the heat get turned up on that pressure cooker and just scroll past it on our phones or look down at our desks during the meeting?
To answer that, we have to really deconstruct the psychology of the bystander.
Let's do it.
The FG Own Your Power platform includes a brilliant module titled Why People Hang Out with Bullies. And it fundamentally dismantles the ecosystem that allows a manipulator to thrive.
Because a bully doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
gaslighter, a narcissist. Their power is almost entirely reliant on the audience and the enablers around them.
If you've ever been the target, this module addresses the question that keeps you awake at night.
Oh yeah. Why do people stay friends with them?
Yes, everyone sees what they are doing to me. Why doesn't anyone say something? The Langleys call it a double betrayal.
That's a perfect term for it.
You are being hurt by the primary aggressor, but you are being abandoned by everyone else you trusted. So what is the primary driver of that abandonment?
The research points to a very primal emotion. Fear.
Just basic fear.
The instinct for self-preservation. The Langleys cite research from developmental psychologists Hawkins, Pepler, and Craig, which shows that the most common reason bystanders do not intervene is the fear of retaliation.
They are terrified of becoming the next target.
Yes. Bystanders see the cruelty being inflicted, and their survival instinct overrides their moral compass.
Wow.
They make a conscious or unconscious calculation that staying in the bully's good graces is safer than standing against them. They essentially trade their integrity for protection.
But I don't think it's just fear of the stick, you know?
What do you mean?
There's also a twisted kind of carrot involved.
Yeah.
The platform introduces a fascinating psychological concept called birging. B-I-R-G-I-N-G.
Basking in reflected glory.
Yes. When you actually break down how this works in a corporate office or a high school, it makes perfect sense.
Urging is a very powerful social dynamic. Think about the invisible hierarchy that forms in any social group. Manipulators and bullies often seize the top spot in that hierarchy through intimidation and charismatic control.
Right.
Bystanders naturally gravitate toward that power because proximity to power feels like power itself.
It's like power by association.
Exactly. Being allowed into the bully's inner circle provides social protection and elevated status. When the powerful person includes you, you feel chosen, you feel special.
But the cost of that inclusion is your silence.
Always.
You are basking in the reflected glory of a tyrant just to keep your social standing or your job. You look the other way when they destroy someone else because the alternative is losing your proximity to the throne.
And the human brain is practically hardwired to prioritize group inclusion over individual morality due to the bystander effect.
We've all heard of that one.
Right. It's a classic psychological phenomenon first documented by John Darley and Bill Latany in 1968 following the murder of Kitty Genovese in New York.
Yeah, that case is famous.
The bystander effect dictates a diffusion of responsibility. Basically, the more people who witness a wrong being committed, the less likely any single individual is to act.
Because everyone assumes someone else will do it.
Exactly.
You see a toxic comment in a massive family group chat and you think, well, Uncle John will probably call him out or my sister will handle it.
Or in the office, you assume someone else will forward the email to HR.
Right. Everyone diffuses the responsibility until absolutely nothing happens, and the target is left believing that nobody cares.
And the conformity goes even deeper than just waiting for someone else to act. The FG platform brings up Solomon Ash's famous conformity experiments from the 1950s.
Oh, I love this experiment.
It's incredible. To truly understand why people enable bullies, you have to understand Ash's findings. He put a single unsuspecting subject in a room full of actors.
Okay.
He showed them a card with a line on it, and then another card with 3 lines of varying lengths. He asked everyone in the room to state which of the 3 lines matched the first one. It was an incredibly obvious, objective visual task.
Right, like line A is clearly the same length as line C. A toddler could see it.
Exactly. But Ash instructed all the actors in the room to confidently choose the wrong line.
So everyone goes around the table and says line B, even though it's clearly wrong.
Yes. And when it was the actual subject's turn to speak, after hearing everyone else confidently state an obvious falsehood, an astonishing percentage of the subjects also chose the wrong line.
They abandoned their own clear perception of reality just to match the group.
They didn't want to be the one weird person disagreeing with the consensus. They overrode their own independent judgment to avoid social rejection.
And the platform makes a brilliant distinction here. Conformity is not agreement.
No, it's not.
Many people standing with the bully, laughing at their cruel jokes, would privately admit to the target later, hey, I know they were out of line, I'm sorry.
But in public, they value their belonging to the group more than they value doing the right thing.
which leads to a very specific, highly toxic role in the manipulator's ecosystem.
The flying monkeys.
Yes. The term comes from the Wizard of Oz, referring to the Wicked Witch's minions who go out and do her dirty work.
Right.
In the context of toxic relationships, the flying monkeys are the people who spread the bully's rumors, who report your actions back to the bully, and who actively participate in isolating you.
It is a highly effective tactic. It allows the manipulator to keep their own hands clean.
Right. They maintain plausible deniability while extending their reach through these proxies. I want to challenge this concept a bit, though,
Okay.
because I think a lot of people struggle with how to view the flying monkeys in their own lives. If your cousin or your coworker is acting as a flying monkey, does that mean they are inherently malicious? Like, are they secretly bad people, or are they just gullible?
That is a highly nuanced dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and the Langleys address it by looking at developmental psychology and cognitive dissonance. Flying monkeys are not always malicious. Sometimes they genuinely believe the bully's twisted version of events. The platform connects this to the development of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that governs independent, critical judgment, complex decision-making, and understanding long-term consequences.
And that part of the brain isn't fully developed until roughly age 25.
Precisely. So in a high school or college environment, a flying monkey might literally not possess the neurological hardware to see through a sophisticated manipulator's lies.
They are just highly susceptible to the charismatic, confident narrative the bully provides.
But even in adult workplace dynamics, where the prefrontal cortex is fully mature, cognitive dissonance plays a massive role.
How so?
While manipulators are masters of the public mask, they're often incredibly charming, helpful, and charismatic to 90% of the office. They save their cruelty for the 10% they're targeting.
So when the target tries to speak up, the bystander experiences extreme cognitive dissonance. They think, wait, the guy who brings donuts every Friday and remembers my kid's birthday is systematically destroying your career. That doesn't make sense.
It creates neurological friction, and the brain always seeks the path of least resistance.
It's just easier to believe the mask.
It is much safer to believe the public mask. To believe the target means you have to acknowledge a predator is in your inner circle, and it means you have a moral obligation to confront them. Most people will choose the comforting lie over the dangerous truth.
But the Langleys are very firm on the ultimate reality of this dynamic. Regardless of their intent, regardless of their cognitive dissonance, the impact is the same.
Yes, the impact is what matters.
If someone is consistently carrying the bully's messages or participating in your exclusion, they are a tool being used against you.
Right.
There's a profound quote in the module that provides a complete cognitive reframe for the target. It says, regarding these bystanders and flying monkeys, their silence says everything about them and nothing about you.
That completely shifts the internal narrative.
It really does.
Because targets often internalize the abandonment. They think, nobody is standing up for me, therefore I must deserve this, I must be worthless.
Yeah.
This quote places the responsibility exactly where it belongs. The silence of the crowd is a reflection of the crowd's fear and weakness, not the target's value.
So, if human biology practically wires the group to protect the bully out of fear, conformity, and cognitive dissonance, you cannot rely purely on your social circle to validate your reality.
They are compromised.
Right, they're compromised. When you realize your own brain and the brains of your peers are tricking you, the next logical question is, how do you bypass biology?
How do you get an objective read on the situation?
Exactly. And that is exactly why Jason and Jennifer Langley integrated artificial intelligence into their system. This is where we move from understanding the psychology to actively fighting it.
The 40-tool arsenal developed by FG Own Your Power is arguably one of the most innovative systems I've seen for reclaiming objective reality.
It's wild.
They recognize that the hardest part of surviving manipulation is the gaslighting, the distortion of reality that makes the target feel crazy. So they build AI tools to decode the manipulation objectively.
Let's break down how these AI tools actually work, because it feels like having a forensic psychological detective in your pocket.
It really does.
The platform includes an AI message analyzer, a red flag detector, a gaslighting decoder, and an apology analyzer.
Think about the mechanics of a toxic text message from a boss. It rarely says, I am trying to undermine you.
No, it's usually cloaked in corporate jargon or faux concern.
Right. So you run the email through the AI message analyzer. The AI isn't experiencing the emotional adrenaline spike you are. It is coldly looking for specific linguistic markers of manipulation.
Let's run a hypothetical scenario.
Okay, let's hear it.
Say a manipulator texts you, "I'm sorry you were offended by my joke during the meeting. I guess I'll just have to walk on eggshells around you from now on."
Oof, classic.
Right. When you read that, your conditioned response is to feel guilty. You think, oh no, I'm being too sensitive, I'm making them uncomfortable. But what happens when you put that into the apology analyzer?
The AI breaks it down into linguistic components. First, it flags, "I'm sorry you were offended," as a blame-shifting tactic.
Because a genuine apology takes ownership of the action.
Exactly. A genuine apology is, "I'm sorry I made an inappropriate joke." The phrase, "I'm sorry you," places the burden of the friction on the target's emotional reaction.
It makes it your fault for feeling bad.
Right. Second, it flags the phrase, "walk on eggshells," as a victim-playing tactic. The aggressor is now framing themselves as the victim of your supposedly unreasonable boundaries.
The AI just strips away the emotion and gives you the math of the manipulation. It restores your sanity.
Yes?
You don't have to rely on your exhausted, gaslit brain to figure out if you're overreacting. The AI objectively says, no, this is a documented manipulation tactic.
And this objective analysis feeds directly into the next phase of the platform, the document and build evidence module.
Because once you decode the abuse, you have to anchor it in reality.
Exactly. The Langleys provide an evidence vault with secure PDF exports, an infinite logger that tracks time-stamped events, and a toxic pattern timeline to visualize the behavior over months or years.
Why is that timeline so critical? Obviously, it's vital if you are going to HR or taking legal action. You need a paper trail.
Sure.
But the Langleys emphasize that documentation serves an even deeper psychological purpose.
It is a cognitive anchor. Manipulators rely on your memory degrading over time. They rely on the ambiguity of the past.
That never happened, or you're remembering it wrong.
I never said that. Exactly. If you're relying solely on your memory, which is already compromised by stress hormones, you will doubt yourself.
Right.
But when you pull up a time-stamped log detailing exactly what was said on March 14th at 2:00 p.m., reality can no longer be distorted. The documentation protects your own mind.
Armed with objective reality and a documented timeline, the platform then moves you into their complete anti-bullying training, which is structured around 7 pillars of empowerment.
Those pillars are fantastic.
I don't just want to list these, I want to look at how they practically function.
Okay, let's go through them. The first pillar is stand-up, which focuses on confronting the behavior using research-backed communication scripts. They highlight Dear Man, which is a foundational acronym from dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT.
Let's actually walk through what Dear Man stands for, because it's a brilliant framework for navigating high-conflict conversations without losing your cool.
Absolutely.
Let's use the scenario of a coworker constantly interrupting you in client meetings to steal your ideas.
Okay, perfect. So D stands for describe. You describe the objective facts without judgment. When you interrupt me during the client pitch to present my slides.
E stands for express. You express your feelings using I statements. I feel undermined and frustrated.
A stands for assert. You state clearly what you need. I need you to let me finish my section before you jump in.
R stands for reinforce. You explain the positive outcome for them. If we present a unified, organized front, the client will trust us more, which benefits the whole team.
Then you move to the behavioral aspects.
Right?
M stands for mindful. You stay focused on your goal and ignore their attempts to deflect. If they say, well, you were talking too slow, you don't defend your speaking speed.
You just act like a broken record.
Exactly. We can discuss presentation styles later, but I need you to not interrupt my slides.
A stands for appear confident. You maintain eye contact, you keep your voice calm and even. You don't shrink physically.
And N stands for negotiate. You offer a workable compromise. Are you willing to wait until the Q&A section to add your thoughts?
It is a masterclass in assertive communication. The manipulator has nothing to latch onto.
No, because you aren't attacking your character. You are addressing a behavior with a clear, calm structure.
And that flows directly into the second pillar, set boundaries, which is about mastering the art of saying no without guilt.
The third pillar is reclaim your voice.
Overcoming the learned helplessness to speak up after being silenced.
Fourth is build inner strength, developing daily emotional armor.
Fifth is respond with strength, which teaches de-escalation tactics learning to respond logically rather than reacting emotionally to a provocateur.
The sixth pillar is heal and rebuild, offering resources for surviving narcissistic abuse.
And the seventh is protect and advocate, which gives parents specialized frameworks to force school systems to take action.
Those pillars form a complete psychological rehabilitation. But the hinge point of the entire system, the absolute hardest part for anyone who has been a target to actually execute, is the second pillar.
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Boundaries are the battlefield. The word gets thrown around constantly on social media, but the FG guide titled How to Set Boundaries Without Guilt completely redefines what a boundary actually is.
It does.
Most of us have been operating under a false definition.
We have. We tend to view boundaries as aggressive acts.
Right.
The Langleys clarify that boundaries are not walls designed to shut people out. They are not punishments designed to hurt the other person. They are not a form of rejection.
Then what are they?
A boundary is simply clear communication about what you will and won't accept in your own space. It is the operating manual for how to treat you.
But if a boundary is just an operating manual, why does communicating it cause such a visceral, agonizing anxiety for so many people?
That's the guilt.
Right. The guide points directly to our childhood conditioning and the concept of guilt.
It dissects the difference between being nice and being kind. Many targets were raised with the core belief that being a good person means keeping the peace at all costs.
You put everyone else's comfort before your own safety.
Yes, the guide explicitly corrects this. The immense guilt you feel when saying no is not a sign that you are being selfish. It is an evolutionary alarm bell installed by your conditioning,
Yeah.
signaling that you were taught your needs simply do not matter.
The manipulators rely on that conditioning. They weaponize your desire to be a quote-unquote good person.
They absolutely do.
But the platform doesn't just give you the theory, it gives you the actual scripts to bypass that conditioning. I love this because in the moment your adrenaline is spiking, you lose access to your vocabulary.
You freeze.
You need preloaded responses.
The scripts are brilliant because they are brief, calm, and leave no room for debate.
Give me an example.
For example, if someone is trying to drag you into a toxic argument, the script is, I love you, but I can't talk about this right now. Let's revisit it when we're both calm.
Or if a boss asks you to take on your colleague's workload for the third time this week, the script is simply, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for that.
The guide heavily emphasizes that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. Yes.
You do not owe a manipulator an explanation because they will just use your explanation as a negotiation tactic.
If you say, I can't do it because I have plans, the manipulator will say, just move your plans.
Exactly. If you give no explanation, there's nothing for them to negotiate with.
Let me push back here with an analogy, though.
Right.
Because setting a boundary with a manipulator feels like changing the locks on a door they're used to just walking right through.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
If they've had free access to your time, your energy, and your self-esteem for years, and suddenly you change the lock, they aren't going to politely knock.
No, they are not.
They're going to jiggle the handle harder. They're going to pound on the door. Doesn't setting a boundary inherently provoke a massive fight?
That is the most common fear, and it is entirely valid. Yes, they will jiggle the handle. They will experience an extinction burst.
An extinction burst.
It's a temporary increase in the toxic behavior as they try to force the old dynamic back into place.
They escalate.
Right. But the Langleys provide a crucial psychological shift for this exact moment. Boundaries do not require a fight. They require consistency.
Okay.
You're not trying to convince the bully to agree with your boundary. You don't need their permission. You are simply enforcing it.
So when they get furious that you won't work the weekend, or when the family member gives you the silent treatment because you won't tolerate their passive-aggressive comments, what do you do with that guilt?
The guide asks the reader a profound diagnostic question in that moment. Am I feeling guilty because I actually did something wrong? Or am I feeling guilty simply because someone is unhappy that they lost access to their punching bag?
Oh.
The reality is, other people's discomfort with your boundary is their emotional responsibility to manage, not yours. The platform summarizes this with a striking metaphor.
What is it?
You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. That perfectly captures the dynamic.
It really does.
If they are cold, they need to put on a sweater, not demand that you burn your own mental health to the ground to comfort them.
And every single time you hold that boundary, every time you refused to open the newly locked door while they pound on it, the conditioning weakens.
The guilt gets a little smaller, and your internal confidence gets a little bigger.
If anyone punishes you for having a boundary, they are actively proving exactly why you needed to set it in the first place.
I want to dive into a very specific type of guilt, though,
Okay, let's hear it.
because for a vast number of people, the guilt of setting boundaries is deeply, intricately tangled up in their spiritual beliefs.
Oh, this is a huge component of the material.
They feel that standing up for themselves, saying no, or walking away from an abusive person is somehow a failure of their faith. This leads us to a highly unique module in the FG platform that addresses this intersection head-on.
It is a vital inclusion. The platform features a dedicated focus on faith-based recovery and spiritual strength, specifically a guide titled Faith in Standing Up to Bullying.
Right.
Traditional anti-bullying literature often completely ignores the spiritual dimension of trauma. But for many survivors, their faith is the core of their identity, and it is the exact lever the manipulator uses against them.
Manipulative people, particularly in faith-based communities, church leadership, or strict families, are masters at spiritual weaponization.
They absolutely are.
They will demand endless forgiveness from the target without ever offering an ounce of genuine repentance or behavioral change themselves. They will quote scripture out of context, telling the target they need to turn the other cheek, using it as a divine mandate to force the target to accept continued abuse.
And the Langleys directly dismantle that toxic theology. They explicitly state that setting boundaries is not unchristian. In fact, they reframe self-respect as a divine mandate.
Which is such a powerful shift.
It is. The guide points directly to the behavioral examples of Jesus in the biblical text to prove this.
Right.
Jesus frequently set firm boundaries. He routinely withdrew from the crushing demands of the crowds to protect his peace and pray.
Right.
He directly and fiercely confronted the religious manipulators of his day, the Pharisees. He chose when to engage, and he often chose to simply walk away from people who were operating in bad faith.
So if Jesus set boundaries, how do the Langleys explain turning the other cheek? Because that is the phrase every manipulator uses to silence their victim.
The guide clarifies that turning the other cheek does not mean becoming a doormat. It means refusing to let the bully's cruelty define your internal response.
Okay, explain the context of that.
In its original historical context, a strike on the right cheek was a backhanded slap.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was an insult meant to demean a subordinate. By turning the other cheek, offering the left, you are forcing the aggressor to strike you with an open hand, which was how equals fought.
Wait, that's fascinating. I never knew that.
It is an act of dignified defiance. It means you will not sink to their level of hatred, you will not seek petty revenge, but you absolutely will stand your ground as an equal.
It's a posture of strength, not submission.
Exactly.
I view this entire module as teaching the target how to put on spiritual armor, rather than taping a kick me sign to their own back. It's about drawing unshakable strength from a higher source when your immediate social group or even your church community has abandoned you.
The guide actually parallels this to the story of David facing Goliath.
Right. David didn't negotiate with Goliath. He recognized a predator and used the tools he had to stop him.
The platform curates specific scriptures to reinforce this cognitive reframe, reclaiming verses that have been weaponized and turning them back into sources of empowerment.
Like which ones?
They highlight Joshua 1.9, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you." They point to Isaiah 54.1, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper."
That's a strong one.
And perhaps most importantly for boundary setting, Proverbs 4.23, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it."
Guarding your heart is the ancient definition of a boundary.
It really is.
It is literally a biblical mandate to protect your inner life from toxic influences. The guide beautifully synthesizes this by saying that standing up to bullying through faith means speaking truth without hatred, setting boundaries without bitterness, and choosing courage without cruelty.
It removes the spiritual guilt that keeps so many victims trapped.
It allows the survivor to see self-defense and self-respect not as sins of pride, but as acts of stewardship over their own life and well-being.
Precisely.
So we have built the individual. The target now has the AI tools to pierce the gaslighting, the dear man scripts to assert themselves, the understanding of boundaries to change the locks, and the spiritual framework to drop the guilt.
They're ready.
But we established at the very beginning that the bully only thrives because of the ecosystem. If we just fortify the target, the bully will just move on to someone else.
Right, they find a new target.
So how do we fix the broader community? How do we cure the bystander effect we talked about earlier?
This is the final and perhaps most structurally critical component of the FG platform, the bystander to upstander pipeline.
Upstander. I like that word.
The Langleys recognized that you cannot rely on bystanders to just magically find their courage in the heat of the moment. So they built an interactive bystander training module designed specifically to override the psychological paralysis of the crowd.
It's based on the five-step bystander intervention model developed by Latane and Darley. It provides a practical framework called the 5 Ds of intervention.
Direct, distract, delegate, delay, and document.
I want to walk through a scenario to show exactly how these work, because this is the toolkit for the listener who is watching this happen right now.
Okay, let's use a common scenario. You are in a department meeting. The toxic team leader starts systematically humiliating a junior employee over a minor typo, raising their voice and making it deeply personal.
And everyone else is looking down at their laptops.
Right. What do you do?
Strategy 1 is direct. This is for when you feel safe enough to confront the behavior head on. You interject calmly and state the boundary for the room. John, making a mistake on a slide doesn't warrant personal insults. Let's keep the feedback professional.
You name the behavior objectively.
Yes.
But if a direct confrontation feels too volatile or unsafe, you use strategy 2, distract.
How does that work?
This is about breaking the tension and derailing the manipulator's momentum without directly challenging them. You could deliberately spill your coffee, loudly drop a thick stack of folders, or abruptly change the subject by asking the target a completely unrelated, urgent question.
So you could say, hey, Sarah, before we continue with this slide, did you get the email from the vendor? I need that file right now.
Exactly. The bully loses the spotlight.
Strategy 3 is delegate. You pull in someone with more authority. In the meeting, you might discreetly message the department head, or you physically get up, leave the room, and bring HR back with you. You use the hierarchy to crush the bully's localized power.
Strategy 4 is delay. Sometimes the moment passes too quickly or the environment is truly unsafe to act in. Delay means you don't let the isolation take root.
This is crucial.
Immediately after the meeting, you go straight to the target's desk. You check in, you say, what happened in there was completely unacceptable. I saw it and you didn't deserve it. You validate their reality and break the gaslighting.
And the 5th D, document, ties right back into the evidence vault we discussed earlier. You take notes of the time, date, and exact quotes, and offer to be a witness for the target.
And there is a statistic tied to these interventions in the Langleys' data that is, without a doubt, the most hopeful metric in this entire deep dive.
Let's hear it.
Research shows that 57% of bullying stops within 10 seconds when a bystander intervenes.
57%, within 10 seconds.
It is a monumental statistic. It proves that the entire terrifying edifice of a bully's control is an illusion. Their power is incredibly fragile.
The ecosystem they rely on can collapse in less time than it takes to tie your shoes, simply because one single person in the room refused to play along with the Ash conformity experiment.
The training also includes a very practical what-to-say guide for bystanders who use the delay tactic. It tells you exactly how to support someone who has been targeted.
Because sometimes people want to help but just don't know what to say.
Exactly. Do say, I see what's happening and it's not okay. Do say, I'm here for you, how can I help? And it explicitly warns you what not to say.
Don't say. Just ignore it. They're like that with everyone, because that just normalizes the abuse.
Don't say, what did you do to make them so mad? Because that victim blames. The goal of the upstander is to validate the target's experience, not minimize it.
Minimizing it just does the bully's work for them.
The platform emphasizes that being an ally, being an upstander, does not require you to be a loud, aggressive hero. Sometimes, the most powerful intervention is simply standing physically next to someone in the hallway or choosing to sit next to them in the cafeteria.
It's about being present, breaking their isolation, and showing the manipulator that the target is no longer alone.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you are the one being targeted or you are the one watching the target sit alone at their desk.
It means that it only takes one dissenting voice to break the spell. Choosing to stand alone, or choosing to stand beside the isolated target rather than standing safely with the crowd, is one of the bravest things a human being can do.
And it is never too late to change your stance.
The journey that Jason and Jennifer Langley have mapped out in the FG platform is a complete behavioral and psychological transformation.
It really is.
Wow.
It takes an individual from being a targeted, isolated victim who is questioning their own sanity, equips them with the tools to become an empowered, boundary-setting survivor, and ultimately trains them to become an upstander who actively protects others.
It is a remarkable progression. Let's recap the incredible scope of the mechanics we've deconstructed today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by zooming out to look at the staggering $14.3 billion economic impact of bullying and the literal data-backed pipeline to violence that occurs when we allow victims to suffer in systemic isolation.
We picked apart the psychology of the bystander ecosystem, the fear of retaliation, the allure of basking in reflected glory, and the cognitive dissonance of the flying monkeys that keeps everyone silent.
We explored how to bypass that human bias using AI decoders to pierce through the gaslighting and anchor your reality.
We broke down the Dear Man framework to communicate assertively, and we armed ourselves with the actual guilt-free scripts to change the locks and set boundaries.
We looked at how faith and scripture can be reclaimed as an unshakable source of strength and self-respect, rather than a weaponized demand for passive suffering.
And finally, we learned the 5 Ds of bystander intervention, proving that a bully's power can evaporate in just 10 seconds if one person decides to speak up.
To the listener, I want to emphasize this core truth. Whether you are currently a target feeling entirely overwhelmed, a parent desperately trying to protect a child in a failing school system, or a bystander who has remained silent out of fear, your reality is valid.
The confusion, the self-doubt, and the heavy guilt you feel are not flaws in your character. They are mechanisms designed by the manipulator to keep you compliant.
The darkness they operate in relies entirely on your lack of tools. But you now have the blueprints.
You have the data, the AI frameworks, and the exact psychological scripts to step out of that confusion, change the locks, and own your power.
And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, expanding on everything we've discussed today.
What's the thought?
We've spent this deep dive talking about the microdynamics of a manipulator in a school lunchroom or a toxic boss in a corporate office. But zoom out even further. Think about the macro level.
Okay.
If a single bully's power relies almost entirely on the silent, fearful agreement of the people around them, what happens to the massive, toxic power structures in our broader society?
That is a fascinating question.
Think about the systemic abuses, the economic inequalities, the broken political norms that we all just shrug and accept as normal or just the way it is. What would happen if we all decided, simultaneously, to bypass the bystander effect?
What if we stopped diffusing responsibility?
Exactly. What if we all collectively looked at the systems making us miserable, employed a simple boundary script, and calmly said, "That doesn't work for me. Stay curious, stay strong, and keep diving deep."